Hello and welcome back to this channel. My name is Zoe and today's video I want to wrap up my September. I realized, first of all, that is the end of September, and second of all, that I only read 2 books this month. I would say, well, I read more than in July. In July I read nothing, and I didn't want to film a video just about me talking about 2 books, so I decided that today I show you what I also watched this month, so which movies I watched and which TV series I watched and what I think about them. Maybe a short video, I don't know how much I will talk about the movies or TV series. But first of all, I'll start with the books because this is normally a book channel. The first book that I finished to read was in my vacation in Athena. I read Love Only Once by Johanna Lindsey. This is the first book in a whole series. It's called the Mallory Anderson family series, and this is a historical romance book. And I already read the book years ago, and I didn't really vibe with the books that I read on my vacation. I was like, okay, I really want to read a historical romance books that I know I liked back then when I read it. So I read this. Majority of the books that I read are basically the same. Maybe in the newer generation of historical romance books, maybe it's something different, but from the historical romance books I know that were published between the 90s and the early 2000s, they are basically the same. So we have always that young girl that needs to get married because she has her debut in the society and she doesn't really like any of the men that she meets. And then there's always one particular guy that is always the bad guy in the society. He's a womanizer, he always has the money, but he doesn't really commit to a relationship. And somehow, the circumstances are always different, but somehow they ended up together. In a way, they both need to get married to each other. And this is also what happened here. We have Regina, she's the first Mallory Anderson family member that ends up in this situation, and she needs to get married to Nicholas Eden, and they get married obviously because they ended up in some situationship. And then you read in the rest of the book how they end up finding out that they are really in love with each other, and we get our happy ever after. And this is not really a spoiler because first of all, it's a romance book. What else should happen, okay? And it's always the same, it's the same formula, and I ate it up all the time. So I give this a 4-star rating. There was something missing, and I know for a fact that the next books in the series are better than the first one, but I still really liked it, and it was an enjoyable read during my vacation. I already downloaded the second book, but I haven't read it yet. The next book that I read, the last book that I read, is, I have a physical copy of it, which is amazing, Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. It took me a little bit of a time to finish this book. I don't know why. So we follow the story, Anastasia Allen, and she is a figure skater and she wants to skate for the USA team for the Olympics. And she is in a partner, she does the partner skating, and she has a really, really bad partner, that Aaron, who is like really an asshole. And due to some circumstances, they go to uni, and they have 2 ice halls. Is it what's it called? Oh my god, I don't know. Ice skating halls, and the one is for the hockey team and the other one is for the figure skating team. And due to some circumstances, the hall for the hockey team is broken, and it's now a swim bath. Until this figured out, the hockey team needs to share the hall with the ice figures team, and they are not really happy about it. And then the hockey team, there's Nate Hawkins, and Anastasia and Nate, they bump into each other, and they have a semi-good start with each other in the relationship, friendship. It's called first friendship, and they are going back and forth from, oh, I don't really like you, but I also like you. And I need to say that I really enjoyed this book. I liked Nate's and Anastasia's relationship because they are not really, it's not, I think what I really like in the story is it's not really like a typical romance story that we all know, like the enemies still lovers and then some big thing happened why they end up breaking up. But they really didn't like each other in the beginning, but they always talked it out right after it happened, or maybe a few days passed. And even though Anastasia has a really hard thing to not she is not really able to really commit to something, I think they ended up having a really good relationship with each other. And Nate is a really sweet guy that really cares for Anastasia, and I really like that. This book is really spicy, like really spicy. I listened to this book in a train, and oh my gosh, I didn't need to blush the day because the book, it was my blush. I really like this. I ended up giving this 4 stars, and I pre-ordered the next book, Wildfire, and this comes out next week, and I think the 3rd of October, but I'm not really sure. But I pre-ordered it, and I will read it when it appears on my doorstep. Okay, this were all the books that I read. So now let's get to the movies and TV series that I watched. So this video is maybe a little bit longer, and also I really like to talk about them. So I think we start first with the movies I watched because it's a lot quicker. So the first movie I watched almost all of the things I watched together with my boyfriend because we spent a lot of time this month together. And the first movie that we watched together was on our vacation, and we watched Murder on the Orient Express. And this is a mystery movie that came out in 2017, and is starring Tom Bateman, Penelope Cruz, Daisy Ridley, and Johnny Depp. I just wrote down the most memorable characters for me. Penelope Cruz because it's Penelope Cruz, and Daisy Ridley because I really like the Star Wars movies, even though other people hated them. And I mean, here are 3 copies from The Love Hypothesis. This is fan fiction about her character, so she needs to get right on. Overall, this movie is about a detective that goes on a train with a lot of people, and there is a murder on the Orient Express. It says in the title, someone gets murdered, and he tries to find out who the murderer is, because the murderer needs to be on this train, because everyone on the train was there, and they ended up stranded on a bridge in a snowstorm, and he tries to find it out. So obviously I will not tell you now who the murderer was, but I liked the movie, kinda. It is not... I like to watch mysteries because I really try to find out who the murderer was. And when my boyfriend and I talked about this, what our thoughts behind this are, why the person got murdered, I had not really a single clue because no one seems to be interesting enough to be the murderer. And when the final plot came out, who ended up murdering Johnny Depp's character, the plot was... It was okay, but I was also like, okay, this is not really interesting. It was interesting, but not really like that I was like flabbergasted by it. So if I would rate this, I would give this a 3-star rating. And then after that, we watched the second movie from that experience, Death on the Nile. I hope I pronounced it correctly. By the way, the characters for this starring was Gal Gadot, Emma Mackey, who played a character in Sex Education, Armie Hammer, and Tom Bateman, again, because Tom Bateman is the detective. Also, Mystery came out last year, and Death on the Nile is about... so Emma Mackey's character, she was in love with Armie Hammer, the Armie Hammer character. The casting choices for the 2 movies are really questionable, but okay. She was in love with Armie Hammer's character, but Armie Hammer met Gal Gadot, a friend from Emma Mackey's character, and Gaga's character and Ami Hammer's character end up marrying. And Emma Mackey turns into this stalker mode and follows them everywhere around because she's so mad to both of them, but also still in love with Ami Hammer's character. And a murder happened on the Nile, and the detective is again behind it to find out who was the murderer of that person that got murdered. I just don't really want to say who got murdered. Overall, again, the plot, I had a really good guess who the murderer was, and by accident I spoiled myself because I wanted to Google something who plays the characters in the movie, and I accidentally spoiled myself of who the murderer was. So again, overall the plot was not really my thing in the end, who was the murderer, that I also gave this a 3-star rating. But I will also say it's an adaptation of Agatha Christie's mystery books, and the mystery books were published in the 1940s, 50s. So I also would say that due to circumstances, maybe the books had the best plot that was given in the time. So it was okay, but it was not overall my favorite movie. Also, maybe I was also not really a big fan of the casting choices. Then we were in Athena for our vacation, okay? We went for something really trashy. We watched Hercules in Athena. I love the movie. The movie came out in 1979, and the character Hercules was played by Tate Donovan. Danny DeVito also plays in the movie, and James Woods. When I'm honest, I only know Danny DeVito. I really like the movie. I really like Hades as a character in the movie. I would say from all the Disney movies, this is one of my favorites, but I still give it 4 stars. It was not something mind-blowing, okay? But it was still good. Next movie I watched the next 2 movies by myself because I wanted to, and I watched The Princess Diaries. This is the first movie yesterday. The movie is with Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews. It's from 2001, and if you don't know The Princess Diaries, why? This is also a book to movie adaptation. I never read the books because 2001, when the movie came out, I was 2, maybe. Depends on which one it was released. But I was 2 years old. I never read the books. When I was able to read, there were different books that I wanted to read. But The Princess Diaries is about Mia, and she finds out at the age of 15. I think in the books she's 14, but in the movies she's 15. And she finds out that she is actually a crown princess of Genovia, and she has the decision now to become a princess or live a normal life again. And yeah, it's called The Princess Diaries, so connect the dots. She became a princess. In this movie, it's actually so fun. I think the funniest thing about me to watch this now is, first of all, to see all on my big fat screen. Yeah, my boyfriend bought a new TV that is bigger than the old one was in HD 4K. Yeah, to see how the special effects in the movie was. It was so funny for me also to see. Anne Hathaway had this really bushy brows. And first of all, when I was a kid, I thought she really had these bushy brows, and they lifted the brows and did all the things to her brows to make it more look beautiful. And now, watching this yesterday on my 4K TV, I saw for the first time that the eyebrows were penciled on. They were visible, these straws, and also you could see the eyebrows were glued on her brows, so they could plug it for the movie, but you could see it. That was not actually detached in her body. It was just glued on, and they picked it up, and this was my goal. It was so funny to watch this, but okay. Overall, I liked this movie. There were some cringy moments, and also Anne Hathaway's character, Mia, she was like, oh, I'm not like the other girls, and she was clumsy. Like, she was the girl that now I watch TikTok parodies on TikTok for characters like that. But overall, for nostalgia, I give this a 4 star. It is a great movie, and I also like really Julie Andrews, and Anne Hathaway is also an amazing actor. Loved it. And today I finished watching The Princess Diaries Royal Engagement, so the second movie And this is about Mia is so close to be her queen, but she needs to get married before she became a queen, because it's a rule in Genovia for female crown princesses, obviously, that they need to get married before they get on the throne. The rule only applies for female crown princes, and for the male part there's no rule for that. And the Chris Pine is also a character in that movie, and I remember watching this as a child, teen, and was like, why is everyone freaking about Chris Pine, or why does Anne Hathaway like his character? Because he looks like looked really odd for me as a child. I was like, oh, he looks like a smeary guy, like so slick and but now watching this today, I was like, Chris Pine, hello. I would also fall for him. I do not blame Mia as a character to fall for Chris Pine's character. But I also really loved it. I think this movie was definitely better than the first one, and I also give this a 4-star rating. But my boyfriend also watched was Elemental. This is the new Pixar movie that came out this year, and I honestly don't know the characters who play Amber and Wade. Never heard from them, but also I watched this in German, so the voice was German voice actors, and I know the German voice actors, but I didn't really recognize them. But okay, this movie is about what if elements have feelings. What if they all live in a city together? And we follow Amber. She's the fire element. She's a fire, and she lives in the fire part of the city. And there's a lot of racism against the fire people in the city, because mainly, obviously, the city is built, I think, on water. The tubes are gliding to water. There are a lot of water people there, and obviously they are hating on the fire people. And I don't know from which culture the fire people are inspired, but they also have a really thick accent. At least in German, they had a really thick accent, and there was a lot of racism against the fire people. And due to some circumstances, what happened in the movie, Amber, the fire element, needs to work with Wade, and Wade is a water element. And they having this weird friendship between a fire and a water element. And yeah, overall, the movie was cute. I had a little bit of tears in my eyes, but in the end happened something. And there was no explanation for that. And this is why I was like, okay, but how? How could this happen? What? Why? And we didn't get an explanation of how this could work. So I ended up giving this a 3-star rating. Afterwards, I find out that from director Peter's son, it was inspired by his family's history. His parents were immigrants to the USA, and they faced a lot of racism because they're not from the USA. So for that, I would think it's a really cute story, and also with the Amber that with her father, they really have a good relationship with each other. And Amber's father has this store, and she needs the original plan was that she take over the store for her father, and there was a lot of culture in the store of what was really important to the fire people, and I really loved that. But the bot is not for the cultural aspect in the story. The bot was really for the how things work between the elements. It's really hard to explain because it would spoil the story to you, but if you watch the movie and you come to an end, you will know what I mean with how did this work and why we didn't get an explanation. I think this was a lack of story there, but the rest of the story was really cute. I can really recommend this to you. I mean, at least I did cry. Now we come to the TV series. We didn't watch a lot of TV series this month, and I will only include TV series that we finished. I started a few TV series, but I'm not done with it, not even with the first season, so I will not include the TV series in that video. Maybe I'll do a different video on that. But we finished Modern Family, finally. We needed to wait a long time for Modern Family to come to Germany on the streaming services. Before that we had Modern Family on Netflix, but Netflix lost the rights or didn't no longer have the rights to Modern Family, at least for the last seasons. And now they're finally on Disney Plus. But we forgot to watch it, so it's longer on Disney Plus now, but we finally watched it. So we finished the last two seasons, season 10 and season 11. Overall, my boyfriend and I both think the series is really good. It's really funny, and I also loved how they connect the story in between the episodes. I also really enjoyed how the season end, the season 11, how it ends. It was a great ending to the story, and I was also a little bit sad that the show is now done. I also cried a little bit in the end. It was cute and we loved it. There was no show that was as good as to us as Modern Family. We watched different shows that were inspired, I think, by Modern Family. I think there's a show on Amazon Prime that you can watch that is inspired by it, but it was not as good. I also forgot already the name of it because it was visually a copy of that. So, okay, now we came to a series that we both started watching also in our vacation after we watched the both mystery movies. My boyfriend was like, okay, I want to watch another mystery, and I was like, actually I know a series that we can start, a TV series that is a mystery series but it's more modern. It's only Murderers in the Building. I heard a lot of great things about it, and we started watching it on Disney Plus. We finished yesterday I think this week we finished the third season, but actually it's not finished. There's one episode missing. Like, Disney, hello, can you please publish the last episode of the series so we can finally find out the murderer of the story? So yeah, we're a little bit pissed, but according to Google, it will show up on the 3rd of October. So better hope that's true, because the last episode, okay? But the series is starring Selena Gomez, Martin Short, and Steve Martin. Obviously I know all of them, especially Selena Gomez. I'm a big fan of her. Also Steve Martin, I watched a few movies where he was in, and I really liked him as an actor. I also watched a few movies where Martin Short was in, but not a lot. But I really liked the dynamic in the story. So season 1, Only Murders in the Building. It's a pretty self-explanatory title to the story. So Steve Martin's character, Martin Short's character, and Selena Gomez's character, they both didn't know each other in the beginning of the series, but they both started listening to one podcast, or they listened to the same podcast. It's a true crime podcast. And then there's a murder happening in the building where they live. So because they need to evacuate the building, they end up being in the same diner, and they realize, the three together, that they really like to listen to the same true crime podcast, so they talk about it. And then when they get back into the building, they realize, oh, someone was murdered in the building. And through some circumstances, they decided to invest the time in this murder and started their own true crime podcast together. And they tried to solve the murder. It's really funny. It's I would say a comedy mystery. We really liked it, especially the first season was really interesting. I think the second season was really lacking for me. What was the murderer plot in the end? So in the first season was done, the murder was solved, and then we go to the second season, another murder happened, and they start doing this all over again with the podcast. But in the end, how we find out who the murderer was, it was like, okay, this is a big stretch. Like, this was unnecessary. I think there could be a better murderer be in the end. But okay, and in the third season, also another murder happened, and I don't know yet who the murderer is for sure. We have a suspicion, but we don't know for sure. And I hope the last episode comes out on October 3rd. So overall, Overall, we had a really great time watching the TV series. We always tried to guess who the murderer was. We had a lot of fun together, and yeah, it was definitely a win, I would say. Only Murders in the Building is a 5-star series for me, and I can't wait for the last episode. So this was it. This was everything I read in September. Not a lot, as you can see, but also what I watched on TV series or movies. And yeah, I hope you liked that I talked about this. I wish you all a happy day, a happy weekend whenever you watch this, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!